and welcome to ACS Golf and this week's review. I'm looking at this, the Srixon Z-U65 driving iron from 2016. Now, there's a few reasons I picked this up. Number one, I love Srixon as a brand. I think their woods over the past couple of years have been great. Their irons have obviously been amazing over the past couple of years. And given that, you know, the utility irons have been really good as well. I've actually tried the ZX Mark II. I did a review of that. So last year, that's their current model, by the way. So check out the channel for that. You know, and that was one of the best feeling driving irons I've ever used. I mean, it felt gorgeous. I was surprised a driving iron could actually feel that nice. So I wanted to pick this up to basically see if you could still get the feel as you do for the brand new one, but at a much more reasonable price on the second-hand market. And so that's the main reason I picked it up. And also, you know, when it comes down to Srixon, you know, obviously people look at the ZX Mark II because it's the newest model. They look at the ZX because it's the model just before the brand new model. They look at the ZU85 because Scotty Scheffler, the world #1, actually has that in the bag still. And so people don't look at this one, the model before the ZU85. All the others sort of tend to hold their value, but this comes in a little bit cheaper, especially on the second-hand market. And therefore I thought, you know, it'd be a great option to try for the channel to see if you guys should have a look at this. If you're looking for a utility iron, remember the whole point of a utility iron is basically to have an iron that looks like an iron, but launches a ball a little bit higher than your normal iron. It has more distance, a little bit more a little bit more forgiveness, and just the same workability as you get with a normal longer iron. You know, if you're not a necessarily good ball striker, you should probably be looking at more of a hybrid because you won't get the forgiveness you need from a club like this. Some of the more modern utility irons, yes, but one that you're going back 8 years, not necessarily. But then this wasn't aimed for the masses. You know, this was definitely aimed for your better ball striking players. So there you go. Now, as always, what we're going to do is we're going to have a closer look at this club. Then we're going to come back here, go for the technology that's in it, then get down to the driving range, and throw some figures at you, come back here for the ACS Golf Scale, and I'll give you my overall thoughts of this driving iron, if I think you guys should pick it up. And I'm also going to compare it a little bit to the ZX Mark II that I reviewed last year. I could say a couple of years ago. It's only last year that I reviewed last year. All right, guys. Now, first things first, let's have a closer look at this club. So there you go, and I actually really like the looks of this, to be fair. I don't think it would look out of place in a bag, even though it is nearly, nearly 8 years old, and so nearly maybe 10 years old. I don't know if you watched this in 2025, maybe 10 years old, but anyway, you know, 8 years old, and it won't look out of place in the bag. I think it still looks pretty modern. You know, some great things about it as well. You know, you've got a great thick sole, so good for, turf interaction. Got quite a thick top line there as well, but nothing too aggressive. So obviously the better player who this club is aimed for won't look down at that and go, oh my God, that thing's huge. You know, it's definitely small enough to suit the eye of that better player. The little sort of cavity back there, I will say, does pop out a little bit, but not too noticeable, to be honest. You know, when you come down to these driving irons, you know, hollow constructions, you tend to notice them on all the models. So not the end of the world there. Okay. Now, let's get into the technology that's in this club. So, per Srixon's website, really good thing, by the way, if you ever look for older models of Srixon, you can normally actually get all the information about the club still off their website. They're quite good at keeping it up. You have to Google search it, but they do tend to keep it up. So do check that out. So going into this, so the Srixon Z-U65 utility iron has made Srixon's best iron performance even better, featuring hollow construction in a slim pro line. The ZU65 is a versatile option for players seeking distance and control off the tee or on a long approach shot. Perfect. There you go. So, unsurpassed feel with distance. Combining ultra soft S20C head material with a new special heat treatment, the new ZU65 utility irons are precision forged for the smoothest, most consistent feel. These irons feature high-strength SUP 10 face insert for higher ball speed and more distance. I feel like the SUP10 facing set is still around. They might have upgraded a little bit, but I'm sure that is. And it's a forged face. A forged, well, they say it's a forged. They don't say if it's forged face or forged head. Normally, these type of clubs, especially when it comes down to driving irons, you get a forged face, not necessarily the whole head. However, they say that the whole head is forged. Well, they don't specify really. So if you know down below if the whole face is, if it's just a face, sorry, that's forged, or the whole head that's forged, do let me know. At the moment, I'm going to assume it's a whole head that is forged. Moving on, so more spin control. All iron faces feature 5% larger grooves compared to the previous generation and double laser milling. This improves contact, especially in wet conditions, for increased friction and spin control. So there you go, there's the grooves. You know, quite deep grooves as they suggested, and you can see the laser milling still on that club face there. Not really nice condition, to be fair. Didn't expect it to be that good, you know, for a club that's from 2016. But yeah, really good condition, this one. So yeah, you can still see that laser milling on it. Moving on, hollow construction allows weight to be repositioned low in the head for a higher initial launch. Got weight in there, as you'd expect. You know, the whole point is to get this ball in the air to get a really good carry distance. So the idea is, you're hitting the green with these these type of clubs, it's going to hit and hold. You know, because that's what this type of player who be using this club will be looking for. You know, that stopping power to get the ball on the green, get that carry, and get it to stick on there. Regarding how many actual clubs are available for this, so the ZU65, you get 2 iron, 3 iron, and a 4 iron. The 2 iron was 18 degrees, 3 iron 20 degrees, 4 iron 23 degrees. So pretty, and I was testing the 4 iron, by the way. So pretty normal lofts, not hugely jacked, but not the weakest either. But still, when it comes down to driving irons, pretty common nowadays with that. I say that I currently use a pin crossover, and I think that's currently just set at the normal 22.5. So relatively the same. Nothing's really changed when it comes down to loft and driving irons over the past couple of years, unlike game improvement irons where the loft has become stronger and stronger. Okay, so there you go. There's all the technology that's in this club. Now, let's get down to range so I can give you those figures, and then we'll come back here for the ACS Golf Scale. All right.
Here I am down the range with the Srixon Z-U65. So for me, when it comes down to utility iron, especially a 4 utility iron, which this Z Srixon is, you know, I'm normally looking around that 200 yard mark total distance. That's what my ping normally goes. So that's sort of the benchmark that I look for when I'm reviewing these sort of, you know, utility driving iron clubs. Now, going to the figures from the Srixon, I will say beforehand though, I was actually doing this into quite a strong headwind. So the results are slightly affected. However, you can still potentially see there's still a lot of distance actually in this club. So on average, I had a carry of 189 yards, total distance of 193 yards, ball speed 121 miles per hour, launch angle 17 and height 91. Now you can see there's really not that much rollout, which is because of that wind coming into my face, which sort of, you know, stopped the ball dead. You know, normally with a sort of a 4 iron, I would expect a little bit more rollout. However, you know, I was still getting some really good results. You know, I had one longest on the day was 201 yards carry, total distance 208 yards, you know, ball speed 129 miles per hour, you know, launch angle 16, height 102. So when I really got the middle of this club, I really did get it far, even into the wind. What I did find with it, the ball flight was very nice. It came up really nice, and out of the middle as well, it felt absolutely lovely. Overall, here's a quick table looking at the results. And as I mentioned, you know, you can see, you know, 189 carry, total distance 193. Because of that wind, the rollout really was affected. Longest though, really happy with that into the wind, to be fair. 129 ball speed, really happy as well. However, you'll see the shortest there is down by quite a bit. You know, you're looking at total distance of 186, which just shows the forgiveness of this club isn't that great at all, really.
So there you go. And as per that sort of little spreadsheet I just showed you, a little bit of a mixed bag, which will affect the ACS Golf Scale, and we'll go into that in a second. But without further ado, let's get into the ACS Golf Scale. So remember, we got distance, feel, looks, price, and forgiveness. 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. Now let's jump straight into distance. So for me, I have given this a 4 out of 5. Out the middle, when you hit it out the middle, it really does go. And that just shows, you know, with the longest one on the day being 208 yards, ball speed 129 miles per hour, you know, really, really happy with it. It really does. You know, once you get it out the middle, this thing really does fly. And to be honest, this is just as long, in my view, as any of the other sort of game, you know, not game improvement irons or game improvement irons, but utility irons out there on the market. I really do think it is. You know, that 4 out of 5 could quite easily be a 4.5 out of 5, to be honest. But I stuck it at the 4. But overall, you know, really, really happy with that. You know, 208 for me with a 4 driving iron. You know, it's a little bit too long to be fair. I normally look around that 200 mark. So now having the average of 189 carry, which is really good. You know, carry and stopping distance, by the way, and 193 total yards distance, was very, very happy with that. I will say, obviously, when it came down to it, you know, there was a little bit of headwind. So maybe this could even gone even further. And I'll probably expect another day, maybe the rollout to be a bit longer as well. But overall, I'm going to give it 5 out of 5 because really, really happy with the result. Moving on to feel. Feel, I've given this a 4.5 out of 5. Out of the middle, you will not find, well, I personally do not think you will find a better feeling driving iron out there. It is pure. It feels lovely, soft. It feels amazing out of the middle. You know when you've hit a good, well, basically good strike. You know you've hit a good ball. We don't even have to look at the ball. You know, you don't even have to see the ball. You know, from the feeling when you hit the middle of this face, you know you've absolutely smashed it, which I love. I really love, and that's why I'm giving it 4.5 out of 5 because when you hit that sweet spot, it feels absolutely gorgeous. Don't get me wrong, if you miss that sweet spot, which I'm not gonna lie, on the day I did quite a bit with this club, it's a lot harder feel. It's not horrendous, but it is a lot harder. The feel just does change pretty quickly. So be aware of that. But obviously, you know, the players should be looking at this club, you're going to be hitting the middle of the face, well, hopefully most of the time. And so, you know, you will not be disappointed with the feel. It feels absolutely gorgeous. Again, one of the best driving irons I've ever felt when hitting. Just lovely, lovely. Makes you want to hit it again and again and again until you miss one and then get the half feel. Moving on, looks wise, as I mentioned before, still looks modern, still looks nice. I've given it a 3.5 out of 5 for looks. For me, maybe the sole's just a little bit chunky and the top line maybe again a little bit chunky. The Srixon, the brand new one, the ZX Mark II, is a little bit trimmer than this, which I personally prefer when looking at driving iron. So there you go. So that's why it's 3.5 out of 5, just because it is a little bit chunky and maybe a little bit square. But overall, still a good looking club. Moving on to forgiveness. Now, forgiveness, you know, we're talking to the figures, you know, the longest being 208 yards, the shortest being 182 yards. That's a big gap there. That really is a big gap. You know, average of 193 yards. There is a big gap between this because the forgiveness of this isn't great. You know, it's better than, you know, the type of player be looking at this is probably still better than their longer iron. It's still better than your blades or your players' distance irons. But as an average, if you're looking at the utility iron and you're sort of an average player, you're going to struggle with it. You really are. You know, you're going to have a lot of drop off of distance. You know, you could potentially there, you know, 20 yards. Well, that's more than 20 yards, isn't it? You know, 25 yards difference there, 26 yards difference there. That could be the difference between getting it over a lake and getting the ball in a lake. So do be aware of that. There is quite a large drop off. You know, the slowest ball speed as well I got was 150 miles per hour. Like, you know, and I mentioned the fastest 129. There is a big drop off on this. It's not the most forgiving driving iron out there. So overall, I'm giving it 2.5 out of 5. I sort of want to give it less. I sort of want to give it a 2 out of 5, but I wasn't striking the ball that well on the day, so I don't really want the club to suffer. You know, really wasn't I was missing it all over the place. You know, if you're a better player and you're hitting it out that middle bit, it's definitely going to have enough forgiveness for you, 100%. If you're spraying it all over the face like I did, do beware. You know, 2.5 out of 5 compared to other utility irons I've used and tried. The forgiveness is quite far down there because that's the whole point of it. You know, it's for the better player, just give them a little bit more forgiveness. It's not, you know, aim to be this forgiving club. You know, if you wanted a forgiving longer iron, you go for a hybrid. Workability wise, really great. You know, could easily shape the ball if you wanted to. Could hit low, higher, you know, left and right. You know, I did have a little go as I always do. with it, and you can definitely move it around quite nicely. So good, exactly what it wants. Good workability there. Now going on to price. So going on to price. Now price, I've given this a 4 out of 5 because on eBay you can get this around £55, so around $68, $70 and below. When you're looking at second-hand markets, like sort of Golf Bidder in the UK, second-hand store, then you're sort of looking just below the £80 mark, and that's just below the $100 mark. But on eBay, people don't think of this club. They don't. They think of the ZU85, which is holding its value. Think of the ZX. They think of the ZX Mark II. To be fair, I don't even think they think of the ZX, to be honest. You might be able to pick up the ZX for really good value because, again, people aren't thinking about it. ZU85 is in your face week in, week out. Scottish Shepherd's playing it. And obviously the ZX Mark II is the brand new club. So this goes under the radar. So like I said, yes, second-hand shops, yes, £79. Might be a few better options out there. Not feel-wise, but maybe a little bit more forgiveness if that's what you need. But when it comes down to eBay, really good price. I mean, pick this up for £50, $60. It's an absolute bargain if you're looking for a driving iron, just for that workability, a little bit more forgiveness than a long iron, and a little bit more distance as well. You are that better player. It's definitely worth having a look at because it feels gorgeous. 4.5 out of 5 feels really good. So price wise, I've given it a 4 out of 5. Really, really happy with the price. I definitely think it's a good bargain out there if you're looking for a driving iron at the moment and you are a good, consistent striker of the ball. Just going to mention now the difference between the ACS Golf Scale and the Srixon ZX Mark II utility iron I reviewed last year, so the current model. We go into distance, they're both 4 out of 5. If anything, actually, I'd say this wins it. I do. I think this is actually maybe a little bit longer than the brand new one, to be fair. The brand new one is a little bit of a smaller profile, so maybe you'd expect that, but still, this is an absolute beast, and that 4 out of 5 could quite easily be on another day, depending how I felt, maybe a 4.5 out of 5. So this definitely, even though they are both 4 out of 5, definitely picks it for distance, I really do think, which cracks me up. We're talking about a club that's brand new compared to one that's 8 years ago, and the one from 8 years, I think, is winning it when it comes down to distance. Feel 4.5 out of 4.5. Both of them, they both felt gorgeous out the middle of the face. I will just say the sweet spot on the ZX Mark II is definitely bigger. So it obviously generally just feels a little bit better. And off the miss hits, it feels a little bit better as well than this one. But when you're both hitting both out the middle of the face, I personally think they feel pretty much exactly the same. They both feel amazing. So both 4.5 out of 5. Looks, I definitely think the ZX Mark II is a better looking club just because it's a little bit smaller, but not a huge amount, 4 versus 3.5 out of 5. Price I'm not going to go into because you're looking at a brand new club and a second-hand club. And then on to forgiveness. And this is where the big difference is for me. Now, giving this a 2.5 out of 5, potentially could even be a 2 if I really wanted to be harsh. The ZX, the ZX Mark II, I give a 3.5 out of 5. They've definitely increased that forgiveness level as they've gone through it. As a lot of driving irons have, I play the pin crossover, it's a little bit smaller than the previous models, but it's still got some really good forgiveness in it for what it is. And so that's the only difference, I think, over the past couple of years. You're not necessarily getting any more distance, but you are getting more forgiveness. So do be aware of that. However, if you're, like I mentioned, a good ball striker, you could save yourself some money and pick this up and play this, and this will work wonders for you. So there you go. All right, guys. Now I hope you enjoyed my review of the Srixon Z-U65 driving iron. Personally, I think it's a great bargain out there for your better players who are looking for a driving iron. Some great distance in there, some great workability, and enough forgiveness for your better ball strikers. If you're not a very good ball striker, I suggest maybe looking at a hybrid, or if you want to go down the Srixon route, looking at the newer models because they'll have a little bit more forgiveness in there for you, as I've just mentioned. All right, guys. So yeah, do give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe to the channel for weekly ACS golf reviews and the odd extra video thrown in. And do comment down below. Have you played a Srixon utility iron? If you have, what model and what do you think of it? I'd love to know. All right, guys, I'll see you soon for the next ACS golf video. See you there. Bye-bye.